There's something uniquely terrifying about letting someone from the internet into your real life. You never really know who you're talking to, no matter how normal they seem on screen. These stories aren't urban legends. They really happened, and they'll make you think twice before ever meeting someone online again. Let me start by saying I'm not a paranoid person. At least, I wasn't before this happened. But what I experienced changed how I see people, and how much I trust strangers, especially the ones who come across as too normal. This happened in 2019. I had just graduated college and was moving to a new city, Minneapolis, for my first real job. Money was tight, so I turned to Craigslist looking for roommates. Dumb, I know. But back then, I figured if I met them in person first, did a walkthrough, and got a good vibe, it'd be fine. The ad was simple. Room for rent. Quiet area. $500 per month. Clean apartment. Must be respectful and employed. It was posted by someone named Jeremy, a guy in his late 20s. We exchanged a couple of emails, then met at a coffee shop downtown. He was awkward, but polite. Wore glasses, spoke softly, had kind of a nervous energy. Honestly, he seemed harmless. And when we went to tour the apartment, it was surprisingly clean and organized. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, small kitchen, and a living room. It wasn't fancy, but it was way better than most of the other places in that price range that I moved in that weekend. For the first few days, everything was fine. Jeremy mostly kept to himself. He worked from home doing data entry or something equally dull, and I was gone most of the day for work. We had a few casual conversations, weather, rent, garbage pickup. Nothing deep. I chalked his quietness up to being introverted, but it didn't take long before I started noticing little things. The first was my bedroom door. I always kept it closed when I left for work. Always. But a few times I'd come home and find it slightly cracked open. I thought maybe I'd forgotten to close it fully or it didn't latch. No big deal. Then it was my stuff. Small things felt off. Like my deodorant would be moved slightly. A pair of socks that weren't where I left them. My toothbrush would sometimes feel damp. Even though I hadn't used it since that morning. First, I told myself I was being paranoid. Moving is stressful. Maybe I was just misremembering. But the feeling in my gut said otherwise. It escalated. One night about 2 weeks in. I woke up around 2:30 in the morning. No sound. Just that weird instinctual feeling that something wasn't right. I turned over in bed and saw my bedroom door was open. Not wide open, just barely ajar, maybe a couple inches. Enough to make my stomach twist. I sat up and listened. Silence. Then, I swear I heard breathing. Not mine. From just outside the door. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't speak. I just sat there, heart racing. Then the door creaked, just a little, and I saw a shape. A figure. Someone standing there, not moving. Watching. I reached over, flicked on the bedside lamp. The hallway was empty. I got up, walked to the door. No one in the hall. Jeremy's door was closed. No sound from his room. The next morning I confronted him. I didn't accuse him outright, but I asked if he'd come into my room at night. He looked confused, then smiled nervously and said, "No, why would I?" He laughed a little too long. I let it go, but that day, I bought a cheap door wedge and a simple USB camera that looked like a charger. I stuck it in my bookshelf facing the room. That night, I locked the door, wedged it, and went to bed. The next morning, I checked the footage. What I saw made my skin crawl. Around 1:50 a.m., my door handle turned. The door didn't open, thanks to the wedge, but I saw the shadow of someone crouching just outside. The camera didn't get a clear face, but the body shape was clearly Jeremy. He just sat there, outside my door, for 11 minutes. Then he got up and walked away. I copied the footage onto my laptop and saved it to a drive. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I packed up everything I could in 2 hours and left. Didn't even tell Jeremy. Just vanished. I stayed with a friend for a week while looking for a new place. And here's the part that makes my blood run cold even now. A few days later, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, no body text, just an attachment. A video. It was footage of me sleeping. From a completely different angle than my USB camera. It was filmed from inside my room. The camera must have been hidden in the smoke detector. I never found it. I never replied to the email. I took the footage and went to the police. They opened a case and went to check out the apartment. But by the time they got there, Jeremy was gone. Vanished. No trace. The room was empty. Furniture gone. Lease terminated. The landlord didn't even know he'd moved out. I gave them the footage in the email, but they couldn't trace it. The IP was masked. Fake name on the lease. All they could tell me was that Jeremy, or whoever he really was, had likely done this before, and probably would again. It's been 4 years, and I still get jumpy if I hear my door creak at night. I haven't used Craigslist since, and I never will. This story happened in 2017, when I was 17 years old. I was still in high school, living with my parents in a small town in Ohio. I was a regular kid, decent grades, part-time job at a pizza place, and like most teenagers, I spent a good amount of time gaming online. My favorite at the time was this multiplayer survival horror game called Outland Echo. It was the kind of game where teamwork really mattered. And that's how I met someone named Creeper_17. We matched up in a co-op lobby one night and ended up playing for like 5 straight hours. He was good, really good, and had this sarcastic, dark sense of humor. Not exactly normal, but he made me laugh. After a few sessions, we added each other on Discord, and from then on, we played almost nightly. He told me his name was Tyler. Said he was 20, lived in Indiana, and worked night shifts at a gas station. He'd always come online around midnight and play until morning. We started talking beyond just the game. Music, movies, creepy internet stories. We bonded over weird stuff. Old creepypasta videos, unsolved mysteries, serial killer documentaries. I thought he was just quirky, maybe a bit obsessed with dark topics, but I was into the same kind of stuff. We clicked, but over the next few months, he got intense. It started subtly. He'd get annoyed if I didn't respond right away. If I said I was too tired to play, he'd guilt-trip me with stuff like, "Guess I'll solo queue and die alone again." I brushed it off. I figured he was just lonely. Then it started getting creepy. One night, he messaged me, "You ever wonder what your house looks like from the outside at night?" I replied with a laughing emoji. I thought it was a weird joke. Then he sent, like, "From your backyard." My blood went cold. I typed back, "What?" He replied a minute later, "LOL, chill. I'm just messing with you." But it didn't feel like a joke. I remember walking to my window that night, looking out into the dark, empty yard, and feeling something I hadn't felt before, like I wasn't alone. A few days later, he asked for my Snapchat. I didn't want to be rude, so I gave it to him. That was a mistake. He started sending me random pictures, his hand holding a gas station coffee, his gaming setup, the inside of his car. But then one night, he sent a photo of what looked like a road sign. I zoomed in. It was a sign from my town. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I messaged him immediately to me. "Are you here?" Him. "LOL, maybe." I asked him, flat out, if he'd driven to my town. He dodged the question. Said he'd always wanted to see Ohio. Then he went offline for the rest of the night. I was seriously freaked out. The next day at school, I told my friend Nate everything. He laughed it off, said it was probably just some loser messing around. But I couldn't shake the feeling. That night, I locked every window, closed all the blinds, made sure the back door was bolted. I even unplugged my gaming headset and turned off Discord. I needed space, but it didn't matter. Around 2:45 a.m., I woke up to a soft thud. First, I thought I was dreaming. But then I heard it again, closer this time. Like a muffled knock. I got out of bed, heart racing. The only light in my room came from my phone charging next to me. I picked it up and slowly crept to the window. We live in a 1-story house, and my room faces the backyard. From the edge of the curtain, I peeked outside and nearly dropped my phone. There was someone standing in the yard, not moving, not swaying, just standing, still as a statue. He was wearing a hoodie, pulled up, hands in his pockets. Just watching the house. I backed away. My mouth went dry. I didn't even think to scream. I ran to my parents' room and pounded on the door. My dad came out half asleep, but the moment he saw my face, he knew something was wrong. I told him what I saw. He grabbed a flashlight and a bat and went outside. But by the time he got there, the yard was empty. No footprints. No signs of anyone. He told me I probably had a nightmare. I didn't argue, but I knew what I saw. The next morning, I logged into Discord. There were 6 messages from Creeper17. "Nice room. Cool dinosaur blanket. You should lock your window." I was right there. So close. "Next time maybe I'll knock." Asterisk, I felt like throwing up. I blocked him on everything. Discord, Snapchat, every platform. I deleted the game. I changed my username on everything. I even made a new email, but it didn't end there. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Not a package. A letter in a return. Address, just my name, handwritten on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 3 words. You forgot me. Asterisk, that's it. No signature. No threats. Just a sick reminder that he was still out there. My dad took it to the police. They opened a report, but there was nothing to trace. No fingerprints. The postmark was from Columbus, which was hours away. They said unless he made a direct threat, there wasn't much they could do. We installed cameras around the house. I stayed off online games for months. I even considered deleting my entire internet presence, and for a while, things were quiet. Until one more thing happened. A year later. It was my birthday. I posted a photo on Instagram. Just me and a couple friends at a diner. Within 10 minutes, I got a DM from a completely blank account. The message? Happy birthday. I remember. That was the last time I ever heard from him. To this day, I don't know his real name. I don't know if Tyler from Indiana ever existed. But I'll never forget that night. The figure standing in my backyard, just watching. Not breaking in. Not running away. Just watching. Dating apps are a strange invention. You're basically inviting strangers to judge you, message you, and possibly enter your life. And sometimes into your home. This happened to me just before the pandemic, late 2019. I had been single for over a year, and after enough nudges from my coworkers, I finally downloaded Tinder. I wasn't looking for anything serious, just to meet new people, maybe grab a drink or two, and kill some of the loneliness that creeps in after dark. That's how I met Chelsea. She was cute. Her profile said she worked in graphic design, loved horror movies, cats, and deep conversations at 2 a.m. She seemed funny, thoughtful, and normal. We messaged back and forth for about a week, and eventually she suggested we meet up. Our first date was at a casual bar near my apartment. Nothing fancy. She looked just like her photos, tall, brunette, wearing an oversized hoodie and jeans. I remember thinking she seemed a little shy, but her laugh was infectious. We talked about everything from our favorite childhood movies to creepy YouTube rabbit holes. It was comfortable. After a couple drinks, she asked if I wanted to hang out somewhere quieter. I said she could come over and we could watch something on Netflix. She agreed without hesitation. We walked back to my place, a second-floor unit in a small duplex on the edge of town. She made herself comfortable on the couch, kicked off her shoes, and pulled her legs under her like she'd been there 100 times before. We watched The Witch, shared a leftover pizza I had in the fridge, and sipped some cheap red wine. She laughed at the scary parts, made fun of the goats, and by midnight, I offered to call her an Uber. That's when she asked, would it be weird if I just stayed over? I paused, like on the couch. Nothing weird, she added quickly. I hesitated, but I didn't want to be rude. She seemed harmless, and it was freezing outside. So I agreed, gave her a blanket and a pillow, and went to bed. That night, I slept, with my door closed. Not locked, just closed at 3:18 a.m. I woke up to a whisper. I couldn't make out what it said, but it sounded like someone was mumbling, repeating something. I lay there, holding my breath, listening. It was coming from just outside my bedroom. I got out of bed and slowly opened the door. There was Chelsea, standing in the dark hallway, barefoot, staring at me. Her hands were clenched at her sides. She had this blank expression on her face, like she was asleep or in a trance. I asked, "Hey, are you okay?" She blinked. Then her face changed instantly. She smiled, but not a normal smile. It stretched unnaturally, wide, and her eyes never blinked. "You talk in your sleep," she said softly. I stared at her, frozen. "Were you listening to me?" I asked. She tilted her head and said, "You said my name. Twice. In your dream." I backed into the room and said, "Okay, well, I think maybe you should get some more sleep." She didn't move. She just stood there, watching me. I didn't know what to do. After maybe 20 seconds of silence, she turned around and walked back to the living room without another word. I locked my door after that. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She was cheerful, making small talk, asking if I had any sugar for her coffee. That I couldn't stop thinking about the way she stared at me. That I told her I had errands to run and she should probably head out. That's when her mood changed. She asked, "Why are you rushing me?" I said, "I wasn't. I just had things to do." Then she looked at me with this deadpan expression and said, "You know I don't want to leave, right?" I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. "I like it here," she said. "It feels safe." "You feel safe." That creeped me out more than anything. That I told her firmly I needed her to leave. She stared at me for a long moment, then quietly gathered her things and walked out. No goodbye. I locked the door behind her, but that wasn't the end. Later that night, around 10 p.m., I heard something. A soft tapping at the kitchen window. I live on the second floor. I walked slowly to the kitchen, heart pounding. The blinds were shut, but I could see a shadow. Someone was standing on my fire escape. I pulled the curtain back slightly. It was her, Chelsea, standing there, in the cold, just looking through the glass. Eyes wide, face blank. I didn't open the window. I backed away and called the police. She didn't knock, didn't shout, just stood there. By the time the cops arrived, she was gone. I told them everything. They took a report, told me to call again if she came back, but without a restraining order or her breaking in, there wasn't much they could do. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I went to check my building's security cameras. My landlord gave me access to the hallway and fire escape feed. I watched the footage. 9:58 p.m., she appears at the back gate. She climbs the fence, barefoot, and walks into the alley. She disappears for a few minutes. Then, at 10:12, she appears on the fire escape, climbing up slowly, step by step. She walks right to my window and stands there for 47 minutes, never moves, never blinks. Eventually, she walks back down and disappears into the night. I changed my locks the next day, put a chain bolt on the door, reinforced the windows. I even bought a motion sensor light for the fire escape. But the worst was still coming. 2 weeks later, I got a knock at my door. It was a delivery guy holding a bouquet of dead flowers. Literally, black, dried out roses. No water, no note. I asked who they were from. He said, "Just the name Chelsea. Paid in cash." I threw them out immediately, but every week after that, for 4 weeks, I got something else. A blank letter, a music box, a VHS tape with no label, all left on my doorstep. No witnesses, no cameras catching her. The police still couldn't do anything. I filed a restraining order, but she never technically broke the law. Then one day, it just stopped and no more gifts. No more sightings. It was like she vanished. I moved 3 months later, deleted all my dating apps, changed my phone number, but I still have this fear, this deep, gut-level dread, that one day I'll open my door and she'll be there, waiting. Because there was one thing I forgot to mention. That first night she stayed over, when we were watching The Witch, she got up to go to the bathroom. She was gone for maybe 5 minutes. The next day, I found something weird behind the couch cushion. A folded piece of paper in perfect cursive. It read, "I finally found you."